And joining us, we have Deputy Political Leader of Hope, Ms. Karen Nunez-Teshira. Pleasant good evening. She's back with us, part 2 of our interview. Good evening to you, ma'am.
Good evening to you, Mike. I actually thought we were actually on air when I was making those comments, but good evening to your listeners. Happy to be with you this evening.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Mr. LaHunt was on prior, and he had quite a lot to say. And I think what he's saying is that he's concerned about the democratic process, and he hopes that prevails in the PNM.
Yes, and he's fired one of the first shots. I've been in the belly of the beast, as they say, so I have taken, and I have a lot of respect for Robert LaHunt. As I was saying to you before we started this interview, he was the CEO of Republic Bank in Barbados and did an excellent job there. Then he was on the board of Republic Bank in Trinidad, and he was, I think, a CEO of Anson McCall. Was very, married a beautiful woman from Ghana, set up Republic Bank's operations in Ghana, and I think it's very successful. And so I think out of all the contenders, I know that he is one of the, but I think he's a front runner, and I think his early shot about this is not in effect a monarchy where you have no crown, but this is a democracy, was saying that to the Prime Minister, and the games have just begun. I can assure you of that.
Yes. Now tell us.
We can't talk about that, though. We can't talk about hope.
Hope. That's what we're talking about. Hope. First of all, budget. What is hope? What is their takeaway on the budget?
Well, I spoke on the budget and actually gave a written statement on the budget with the fiscal deficits, the fact that there have been no improvement in terms of looking at alternative sources of revenue. And while the Minister of Finance spoke about having a very branded, focused approach to tourism in the appropriation, and for different ministries, I saw nothing set aside specifically for tourism. Similarly, when we talk about agriculture, where we're importing 7.3 billion worth of food in this country, when a few years ago it was 5 billion, which is bad enough in any event. You look at the allocation for agriculture was even less than it has been in the last few years. So it was a budget for an election, clearly, because the measures that he took for the minimum wage is really for people who are not public servants, and for those public servants who had not, who had accepted the 4%. So it was, and public servants make up a large part of our electoral, of the persons who vote in an election. So it's an election budget, but we are in serious trouble. We could go on and on. I'm not here to talk about the failures of the PNM, because the PNM has been a failure in many ways. I would say in a major way is in implementation. It has been grossly 10 years. I could give you so many examples, but I'm not here to talk about that.
Let me ask you this, Karen. It's very important because, perception goes a long way in our local politics here. And there are those who would say, listen, Hope maybe has something to offer. There's good people. There are people who are educated. There are people who have a level of understanding what this country needs. However, there's a disconnection. What do you say to those who speak about this disconnection? Can Karen Nunez-Teshira come down to the ground? Can the political leader of Hope come down to the ground? Do they have an understanding of the reality that we face?
Let me answer you very quickly.
Go ahead.
If Karen Nunez-Teshira cannot come down to the ground, I saw Stuart Young can't come down to the ground, and I saw Faris Al-Rawi cannot come down to the ground, and that Prime Minister who pretends to be uses his, and I'm sorry to put it this way, but uses the fact that he's a Port Tobago boy and the black issue, which I did not bring up, they brought it up, and has traded on that for years, but is on a golf course socializing with the upper class in this elitist society, and I was watching, by the way, a program on Al Jazeera, which was very interesting, and it's relevant to what you're just asking me. It was Professor Emeritus at the University of Massachusetts, and he was talking about America is a wealthy country, but guess what? And this is a global trend. But 10% of the country owes 90% of the wealth. Well, I bet you that's the truth in Trinidad and Tobago. So, and he says that is not good for a country where the UNDP has said our number one objective is to close the inequality in the income inequality gap, because it is getting larger and larger. So if we are not good enough, then they are not. And let me just correct you on what you just said. When I was a member of parliament and had for 2.5 years under significant pressure because the oil had dropped to $35, CL Financial, global financial crisis, TTIFC, the TTRA, which I got passed, much of my legislation I got passed, a Financial Institutions Act, I got it passed. A lot of the my property tax, which may be popular or unpopular, I had also been successful in getting that passed. Apart from doing all of that, NACTA, 2 weeks before the elections, said that the public polling, 98% of the population of my constituency gave me a favorable rating, even higher than Jack Warner at 97%. So if I couldn't get down to the ground and where was I? In W. O'Meara. I wasn't in St. Anne's. I wasn't in Goodwood Park. I was in W. O'Meara, building Samaru Village bridges. Karapo, especially, I put a lot of emphasis in Karapo. They got pavements they never had. They got lighting they never had. I got paving that they never had. I fixed bridges that they never had. I did so much work. I put so much effort in community centers. I have the proof. I had two during the period I was there. It was called Building Bridges, where I was sent out showing the work that I had done in the 2 years that I was there. So if anybody could reach down to the man in the street, and in my constituency office, the people were treated like human beings. There was a television, there were couches set up, there was a suggestion box, and I told my staff, anybody come in here, slippers or wearing the best shoes that that money could buy, they are to be treated equally, and I want no complaints. I had everything computerized. In fact, one of the former ministers, I will not call the name, wanted to use my model of how I ran my constituency with showing complete respect and dignity for everyone that walked in there. So don't talk up to me about that. And let me just say this other thing with that comment that people make. You have to understand that, when I say you, I mean people have to understand that persons, when you look at a revolution or when you look at change and positive change, the persons who have always led that have come from the middle class. Many of them have been lawyers, but you know what? They have a love of the people and they care about them. I give you many examples of that. Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, in South Africa, Mandela. It was a lawyer. Mahatma was a lawyer. Castro, you might like him or not like him. He came from an upper middle class family. Lawyers, as I told you, all those persons that have led, and if you go back to Toussaint Louverture in Haiti, educated former slave, all the persons who have led the masses to get better conditions for those who have suffered have come from the middle class educated group. But you know the difference between them and me? I am not elitist. I am not trying to take advantage of the people of the country. I love my country.
Understood. I think you said it. I said quite a lot, and the reason why I had to put that out there is because we see it on a daily basis. I mean, even today, the talk around the water cooler would have been the fact that you have a minister saying that if you think things are bad here, then you need to travel, you need to get out there, and totally disconnected to the facts of what is going on. So that's why I felt it was only necessary to to ask you
I hope I've
about that
answered your
perception.
question. And the people who are saying that, the last person, one of the major criticisms of the current administration is that the Prime Minister, including the Prime Minister, is always on a golf course. Always on a golf course. They can't get more elitist than playing golf, in my respectful opinion. Not playing football like my husband did, who came from Nelson Street. My husband came from Nelson Street. I met him living in Nelson Street. I didn't meet him not living there. He was living in Nelson Street. I was in a better financial position than he ever was at that time, and certainly more educated. But you know what? I saw beyond that to the person he was. So if you want to talk that kind of foolish talk with me, I could tell you that's where my husband came from, Nelson Street. Nunez-Teshira, a footballer, the head of the national football team. Where did your Dr. Rowley, all Dr. Rowley wants to do is you have to judge a person by their actions. These are people, in my respectful opinion, is two types. One who never had, and therefore they carry a weight of never having, and when they were young they were probably despised, looked down upon, and as soon as they have the opportunity, they are the ones. I've seen it over and over again, because I come from an upper middle class home, I will admit to that, and I saw it over and over again when people who did not come from my background, who would want to criticize me, as soon as they got an opportunity to uplift themselves, there was nobody more snobbish than them and more elitist than they were.
All right, Karen, hope. Let's focus here now.
So
We are in.
I think I answered your question.
I know you gave us quite a history there, but as far as moving forward, I mean, okay, so you're on the ground.
I can answer you.
You can touch the ground. You're not disconnected. What is that message? That message.
You know, I will tell you something. Okay, HOPE is not an acronym. HOPE is a guideline, given guidelines for how we see ourselves, on our leadership team sees ourselves. So HOPE stands for honesty, number one, because I don't think there's a lot of trust and confidence in this government. I think there's even a sense of betrayal. If you look at the persons, the persons who make up the bulk of support for, well, the government in power, I have to speak about them because the opposition is not there. Right. They feel betrayed, they feel cynical, they feel disenchanted, they feel like their position is no better. Who do you see in the lowest position in this country, working in the lowest position in this country still in 2025? How many years after colonialism has come to an end? This is neo-colonialism, because there's a handful of people in this country who own nearly every single thing in this country, and the people at the bottom of the barrel are still the persons who Eric Williams said that he was fighting for, and that is that PNM party.
And let me ask you this, Mr. Teshira. I mean, that's a great point you're bringing up. Again, you know, perception goes a long way. But are these not the same people that parties like HOPE and other parties would have to go and have a sit down with and say, listen, we need financial support, we need financial assistance, because at the end of it all, money helps with every political campaign.
Okay, so let me just say what HOPE stands for, and I will answer, hopefully answer your question. So HOPE stands for honesty, HOPE stands for opportunity, and we mean opportunity for all. HOPE stands for performance, which this government has not been able to do. Its track record is there for you to see. And the E stands for empowerment, empowering the little man, the small man, for every single one, from the rich to the middle class to the poor person, to be able to see a better future. Because at the end of the day, what do we all want? We want a violent-free society. We want a society where there's peace, there's harmony, that we can go out at night and not be fearful. We want to live a healthy life. We want to have an opportunity for good education. And we also want an opportunity for gainful employment and to be entrepreneurs if we want, from the smallest to the biggest. That's what we want. And that is what HOPE stands for. And you know why we can say that? Because our leadership team are made up of people not who say they can do, they have done. They have done and are prepared to pass on the baton. Yes, you will say, well, we want younger people. But you see, and I agree that the younger people must take over, and I agree to that. But unfortunately, experience only comes with age. So we are holding on to pass on the baton. And why do I say we have that? We all collectively are proven leaders in our own rights. Timothy Hammersmith, the head of one of the largest, most successful commercial law firms in Trinidad and Tobago, who has negotiated some of the biggest contracts, energy contracts, that have benefited the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And he certainly does not need to put himself out there. There's no need for him to put himself out there unless he had a love for Trinidad. Louis Lee Singh, he's the father of talk radio. 102 FM, 95.5. When people said you couldn't ever bring talk radio to Trinidad, it could not succeed. He had the vision and the mission, and he did it. He did it, and he became mayor of Port of Spain. He has had so many achievements. You cannot question that his not only commitment, but he has a proven track record. And I would say for myself, I mean, I don't want to seem boastful, but I was in academia for many years. I've written 3 legal texts, and not to be boastful or anything so, but for the region, by the way, because I'm a regional person.
And as we wrap up in this last minute, because you see, we're going to have a part 3 again, Karen, because you have so much information here.
You didn't want me to talk about what Hope is prepared to do, because I was ready to tell you what we are prepared to do.
I'm going to give you a lot of time. I guarantee you that for part 3 after the Diwali celebration, I'm definitely going to give you that time. But I just want to end off
what Hope can do, because I just want to make sure that the people understand that we all, every single one of us, have proven leaders, and that's what you need: leadership with commitment and a proven track record. And there's no question that we who make up the leadership team of Hope have that. Right. And don't make me an elitist. What is elitist about me is that I have the opportunity to help those to whom much is given, much is expected. And that is, I believe, what we all believe in.
I hear that loud and clear. When we get you back here on The Observer, we'll be talking about alliances and what makes up that good alliance, one that you would feel very much confident about as far as forming the next government.
Not only that, if I may say so, Mikey, please let me just say this.
Go ahead.
Oftentimes people are armchair critics. They can tell you everything that's wrong. Often they give you solutions. They give you some airy-fairy solutions. We have solutions that are workable, both for the economy, in relation to crime, in relation to the legislative agenda, in relation to education. I am sure when you bring me back, you might be shocked at some of the information that we have and are prepared to implement from day one in Trinidad, because you know why? We owe nothing to anyone. We are in nobody's back pocket. And the only back pocket we are in are the back pocket of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So if you say you are fed up of both of the two of them, you have been given a democratic right to take that finger and stain it red and believe that we can and we will.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Miss Nunez-Teshira. Thank you so much.
Right,
we'll be getting you back here after the Diwali celebration. Thank you so much. All the best.
You're welcome.
Yeah.